taking us to a team that made a couple of highly talent adding moves. That's not a good way to describe anything. I was going to say consequential moves, but I feel like I keep saying consequential. So I'm not going to do that. The Oklahoma City Thunder, Dan, they're going to be good. There's two good questions here, and you have one bolded. Let's do that, and then we can kind of touch on the other one.
Should the Thunder so shocked when I have good questions? My God.
Well, I just, sometimes you underwhelm me. Should the Thunder be favored to win the West?
Yeah. What? Okay. Talk me out of it.
Well, it would just be, should they be favored? Like they are
favored. They're the second. It's the Celtics, and then the Thunder have the second best title odds. So it's not, we're not saying that sports books are undervaluing them or bettors are. They are the favorites to come out of the West right now.
I think so too, but this is a good way to get into the other question. Like maybe just flip it. Like, what are the reasons that give you pause about them being favored? Because I'm with you. I think they are they could win 65 games. Like who knows? But what are the potential reasons they might not?
So I think what you can look at and say is they struggled most on the offensive end when they were at their worst in the playoffs. And while they added 2 players in Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein who helped them in different ways there, Caruso's a better shooter than Giddey. Isaiah Hartenstein's going to give you the offensive rebounding element, and he's more, I think he might shoot threes in OKC just because we saw him dabble in that before he went to New York, but he's more even if he doesn't, he's more versatile than Jay will.
He's a good passer. He's like really, really good passer.
And so you could play him with Chet, independent of Chet. So they are better in theory offensively. None of these moves addressed what I viewed as their biggest need, which was they need the third guy who can generate his own shot, maybe initiate some of the offense for others going from the outside in. And I could still, like Caruso will give you some ball handling there. He's pretty good at maintaining his dribble, but he's not a spectacular passer. He's not someone who's going to create himself from the in-between. He's not going to hit a ton of unassisted threes. And so now you could say if they weren't going to get someone who addressed the need that I just outlaid, it was they needed the higher end play finisher or complementary piece on offense, like a Larry Marketing rather than an Isaiah Hartenstein or an Alex Caruso. However, to just answer my own concerns, they're going to be like, are they going to be worse than the third rated defense in the league? Like what teams are going to be better than them defensively? Boston could be up there. Magic will be a candidate for sure. They are just built to have no bad defensive lineups. Yeah. And the thing that I didn't consider enough was we're just going to assume that everyone on this team is a finished product. Even Shai Gilgeous-Alexander probably isn't a finished product, but let's just go. Shai can't be better than 2 consecutive first team All-NBA performances, finishes runner-up in the MVP voting. He's reached his peak. You know who hasn't? J-Dub.
Everybody else.
Right. And it's just Jalen Williams, he was definitely exposed in the playoffs. He was a sophomore. And even when you look at his year-over-year performance from rookie to sophomore, he went from basically not generating a ton of his own looks to generating, like his step-back three-point percentage, or volume basically tripled off his rookie season. And the fact that that is there, like there's a pathway for him to get better. And then I firmly believe that part of the Josh Giddey trade calculus was, well, we want to put the ball in Chet Holmgren's hands more.
Yes.
Let's see what he could do. Even if you don't want him facilitating from the post or having him down low, let's see what he could do from the outside in, where like maybe even independent of a screen. Can he just capitalize off mismatches against other bigs, or if teams are going to try and hide guys on him defensively? And you also have, by the way, Cason Wallace. I think I named him my most underrated player in the NBA, and I think no one except Thunder fans were happy about it. Aaron Wiggins. You want someone who could generate their own shot and not really cost you a ton on defense, and he cuts, he can hit threes. That's just it. Aaron Wiggins, if he's on any other team, like he's probably playing way over 20 minutes a game, right? And on the Thunder, sure, it's like he's going to struggle to get to 16 again or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I fully like, by the way, they didn't give up a single first-round draft pick this year. So they could still go out and unbelievable is the word for it. They could still go out and make that move. They don't seem like a team that's really going to turn things over middle of the season. It'll be, let's get more information, but you have a lot of information on your main guys. I will say though, unless you disagree, that does seem like the outcome of, well, if they didn't win the West or come out of the West, this is why. I think it would come down to like, they just don't have that I don't even think you need to say the third guy because Jalen Williams, as he was in the playoffs, wasn't good enough to be the second guy. So if he doesn't make the jump and you still just, you're kind of too reliant on Shea to generate offense for himself and keep your half court attack afloat, that feels like their potential downfall. But even as I'm saying it, I just can't envision them not progressing in that area.
Yeah, you have to cite that just because it's by default, just because it's the only thing you can sort of talk yourself into being an issue based on last season. Like, and the other thing is like, oh, what if they get smoked on the glass and they're into? It's like, well, that happened last year and they were incredible. Like that, and it's all that stuff will be better with more point of attack defense from Caruso and Hartenstein being in the middle. You mentioned it. It just comes down to Chet. I really think Holmgren's not a 7-foot guy that like was asked to play basketball. I really think he is just a basketball player that happens to be that tall because like you see flashes of God help like the conventional center that's tasked with being out on him on the perimeter. Cause like he actually can put the ball down and not just straight line drive it. Like he has a package of dribble moves and like he doesn't need tons of space because he's so quick and he can turn and shoot over guys too. He's a way better passer than I think he's been able to show just because of his role. So I think Wallace you would expect just because of his position to be like, he's got to have more playmaking in him. He can't just be the defender who shoots corner threes forever. I still think it's Holmgren who has the potential to just like make these concerns about a third playmaker seem insane. Like, at this time, a year from now, like I really do think we have not seen, and it's not crazy to say because he's played one professional season. Like we have not seen anything close to what he's going to be able to do offensively. And that's also from a guy that like, if Wembanyama didn't exist, I would just like, you'd have to pick Chet as like a top, he's always my defensive player of the year. Like, I just think he has that kind of ceiling too. So I think, we had to pick a why not because I phrased the question that way. But like, even the why not of like, oh, their playmaking is not great. I think Holmgren could just average a ton of assists.
What's interesting about them is because you have Caruso instead of Giddey now specifically, even if Chet Holmgren is not like deepening his bag, it's just that driving game, the counter, he's going to have more space.
There's a shooter there now. Like Giddey was not a threat.
He generated points on 67.2% of his drives. That was not like this. That was exactly the same percentage as Giannis Antetokounmpo. Much smaller volume, 500 plus drives versus Giannis had like probably a trillion. I didn't look at the exact number. Giannis had, where did Giannis wind up with? He had 1,100 drives versus Chet Holmgren's 534. But like this dude scored when he had, and that, by the way, that number was like way higher for the first like half of the year. So what's going to happen when he doesn't kind of hit the rookie wall or like is now used to going through an entire basketball season? So I'm with you on the Chet thing. I think they absolutely should be favored. And who's the best alternative at this point? Is it Denver or Minnesota? Should Memphis be in that discussion?
You'd have to mention Dallas too, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I apologize to the Mavs for not mentioning them.
I think my gut says Minnesota. Even if we get into a playoff series, crazy as it sounds after last year, I still might just like Denver better today. But I think Minnesota has got to be viewed as a major threat too.